Going, everybody. Happy Thursday. Luke Reimer to the right. I am Zach Bruner. We're back. We're talking NFL, NFC North betting. We're going over some NFL futures tonight. So shifting away from fantasy, but still projecting the NFL season. We're going to start with the NFC North. We're obviously Packer fans, so this is a division that we know pretty well. And I think it's a good time to place NFL futures right now. There's a lot of value to be had. Teams, we pretty much know how they're going to look for the most part. And if you want to get a good value before any preseason games start, this is the time to be placing your bets. So we will be looking at Bet Online Sportsbook for our odds. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can go to the description. There's a link for Bet Online. You can get up to a $2,000 bonus on your deposit if you use our link, if you sign up with our link. And then on top of that, I think there's a risk-free $50 bet you can use. I think there's promotions for the big UFC card this weekend that you can do. So definitely check out Bet Online. And we obviously are going to be placing our bets there for all of these. But let's just start with the outright NFC North winner. It's obviously pretty simple to project this division. I think overall, most people believe this is the worst division in football. However, there's one team that continues to win the NFC North, and it's the team that's heavily favored with minus 175 odds. The Green Bay Packers are favored. I don't know why you would choose a different team to bet on. The only way the Packers don't win it, in my opinion, is if Aaron Rodgers gets hurt. And sure, that could happen, and you could have good money on the Vikings then at plus 225. But overall, it doesn't make a ton of sense. And for people who don't truly understand these odds, there's a lot of people who don't, I discovered. So let me explain them pretty quickly. These are all American odds, and it's all based off of $100, either winning them or either winning $100 or betting $100. So when there's a minus, that means it's a favorite. So if the Packers have minus 175 odds, that means you have to bet $175 to win 100. And for the Vikings, for example, their odds are plus 225 to win the NFC North. That means if you place a $100 bet, you would win $225. So pretty simple. Henry in the chat. Dan Campbell for the win. And because Dan Campbell coaches an NFC North team, Dan Campbell's a stud. I like the Lions this year. We'll get to the Lions. Their odds to win the NFC North are plus 1,000, though. It's a fun long shot, but I don't know, Luke. Do you think there's any chance they win the division?
I don't think so. I mean, other than I would say if Aaron Rodgers goes down, I still don't think Detroit or Chicago can win the division.
Yeah. I mean, there's a real case to be made that the Chicago Bears are the worst team in football this year.
Shit show there.
It sure is. Their offensive line is extremely rough. So even if you believe in Justin Fields,
and the thing is,
matter.
knowing Chicago media, as soon as there's 2 losing seasons in a row for Justin Fields, he'll get traded.
There's going to be people truly cheering for somebody else to get in there, and that's kind of probably why they got Trevor Siemian, because I'm not sure if anyone's going to be chanting for Trevor Siemian, even if they're 0-17. I think they're still going to throw Justin Fields out there.
Shout out to Mitch Trubisky, who actually had a good winning season there and still got traded because the media just flipped a switch against him.
Yeah, it sounds like he's actually looking pretty good in Pittsburgh right now, too. It sounds like it's pretty clear he's going to be the starter. And Kenny Pickett apparently has looked really bad. So, I mean, maybe Mitch gets a full season in Pittsburgh, and obviously don't want to go into this too deep, but that's a super interesting spot because their defense obviously is elite. Their weapons around him are very, very good. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season before. If Mitch Trubisky can not be bad, just be fine.
If Mitch Trubisky is just a little bit better than Ben Roethlisberger last year, that's a playoff.
Yeah. Yeah. That shouldn't be that hard. Henry remembers when Matt Nagy was coach of the year. Honestly, Matt Nagy is a very, very good football coach at his style. And he's not willing to move off of his style, which is why he's a bad coach. But if he's willing to, or if he's able to get like all of his pieces to do his thing, he can be really good.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not living in a dreamland. But yeah, Packers minus 175. I think it's the only bet you can truly place there. BetOnline also, though, has odds for each team for each finishing position in the division, which I think this is where there's a ton of value. Once we get later into the offseason, there should be an exact order prop. So you can pick specifically the Packers are going to finish 1, Vikings 2, Lions 3, Bears 4. And that always has super good odds. For now, we can only go individual teams. But after the Packers, Luke, do you think the Vikings are the clear number 2? Or do you think there's an actual competition for number 2?
I do think that the Vikings are the clear number 2. I mean, the Vikings are. I'll say they're a fine football team. I mean, I think they can be a playoff team this year. Detroit, Detroit's on the come up, but it still feels like maybe they're a better quarterback, or maybe a piece here and there, a bet here and there away. And like I had mentioned before, Chicago is just a dumpster fire. So would it shock me if Detroit took second in the division? Maybe a little bit, but there's an avenue. I just think the Vikings have too many better players than Detroit has right now.
Yeah, I like the Detroit Lions. I think they're underrated. Their schedule is stupid. It's
Mm-hmm.
so easy. It's
Yeah.
so easy. But the Vikings, man, I think the Vikings should realistically, they should be a playoff team. They always get in their own way,
Mm-hmm.
but it shouldn't be a reason why they don't get second in the division.
I mean,
And their odds are crazy. Yeah, before we get into them, though, what do you got?
yeah, I was just gonna say the Vikings last year, 3 of those 1-point losses go the other way. They're a playoff team.
100%. 100. They were they looked like one of the best teams in the NFL multiple times last season.
Mm-hmm.
But
They
obviously they completely unraveled too.
kicked the shit out of the Packers. I think the first game that they played them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're a talented team. Kirk Cousins is better than people give him credit for,
Mm-hmm.
even though he's super fun to hate. I think he's a pretty good quarterback. Justin Jefferson's the real deal.
Yep.
Their offensive line's pretty good. Their defense has playmakers. Yeah, they're a good team. But because they always beat themselves, Bet Online has their odds pretty even across the board, which is fun. So to finish first, we already talked about it's plus 225. To finish second, still plus 140. So you're still getting plus money for second. And then for third, it's plus 260. We won't even get into fourth because they're not worse than the Chicago Bears. But to bet on them to finish second, which is what I would do, plus 140 is good money. I'll put 100 on it to win 140.
It almost feels like free money.
Yeah, 100%. And if we're doing that, then if we're pretty confident the Packers are 1, the Vikings are 2, we look at the Detroit Lions at 3, that's plus 150. So that's
Right.
even better odds. The odds say the Lions are going to finish last in the division. I just don't see it.
Mm-mm.
It doesn't make sense to me.
And that seems to be, just in the grand scope of the NFC North, that seems to be the best bet right now, is the Lions finishing third. Did you say odds on that?
Plus 150, third.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd rather do that than, I don't know. I don't know what I'd rather do. The Lions finish third or the Vikings finish second, if I had to choose between one.
I think they both mean the same thing.
Right.
That's the thing. I suppose there's a scenario where Aaron Rodgers gets hurt and the Packers don't win the division and the Vikings win it. So the Vikings are a little bit more risky. But if Jared Goff goes down for the Lions, do they get worse?
Probably
Maybe
not.
a little bit.
Yeah.
A little maybe, but it's not much. If one player gets hurt on the Lions, do they get significantly worse? No.
Mm-mm.
If 5 players do, they're all the same, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like them at plus 150, 150 at third. If you think they're going to finish last, they're plus 115, 115, but I don't see it. So their odds, the odds say they're going to finish fourth. The odds also say the Chicago Bears are going to finish fourth. So they're just kind of hedging their bet a little bit. For the Bears to be last in the division, though, it's pretty obvious. Minus 120. which are still odds I would be willing to take.
Yeah.
And I really can't wait for the exact order prop to come out because this is going to be like a plus 400 thing, probably a plus 400 parlay for the exact order of Packers, Vikings, Lions, Bears, which makes a ton of sense.
Too much sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like these bets right now. I already have exposure to them. I already bet them. So I suggest you do the same by signing up through the link in the description. And we're just kind of walking through the bet online futures here. So moving on through this, let's look at odds to make the playoffs. Yeah, Luke.
Cool. We can do that. I was just going to bring up Henry's Lions 2-0 over Bears plus 230. I don't have either of their schedules up in front of me. I like that. I just would like to see where they play each other.
I have the Lions schedule. I was going to bring that up, just the Lions schedule. They play the Bears first in week 10.
Okay.
Which would be a week after they play the Packers. But week 10 in Chicago, so mid-November, it's not going to be too crazy in terms of weather. And then they play at home on New Year's Day in week 17 against them. But just in terms of the Lions finishing third and being somewhat of a sneaky team, like here's their non-divisional schedule. They play at home for the first 2 weeks against the Eagles and the Commanders. They play at home again against the Seahawks. They go to New England. They have their bye. They go to the Cowboys out of their bye. So one of their toughest games is off a bye. Then they play at home against the Dolphins, to the Giants, home against the Bills on Thanksgiving. So a tough game, but it's a Thanksgiving game. Then they got the Jaguars, the Jets, and the Panthers. That's a pretty simple non-divisional schedule.
I mean, it just sounds like out of that it's realistic that there's 5 or 6 wins there, and you know if you steal 2 from the Bears and maybe 1 from the Vikings, that's almost a 500 record.
100%. And at least last time I looked, we'll get to it eventually. I know that before the Lions projected win total that you could bet over under was at exactly 6, and even 6. So if you're telling me if they get 6 wins, I push. I love it because they can get that easy.
Yeah,
they should beat both New York teams.
Right, at least 5 in those games, and then they always play the Packers tough and somehow always get a win with the Packers. And the Bears are also horrible that we didn't include in those.
I like it.
So that's 8 right there, 8 wins.
And realistically, the Panthers are on Christmas Eve, week 16. Matt Rule might be fired the week before that. So they could be all emotional and distraught. Yeah. And I said the most dangerous game for the Packers on the Flurry Sports podcast was that week 18 game because Dan Campbell's coming to Lambeau. Time TBD. That's scary as shit. Dan Campbell's coming and you don't know when. Everyone's looking around every corner. They're going to win that game. And I don't know. They're probably going to knock the Packers out of the bye week or something.
Imagine if that game had significance for the Lions, how fired up Dan Campbell would be.
Dude, if it's win and you're in and they can make that the final game of the weekend, I would be so jacked up. Looking at playoff odds to make the playoffs, to miss the playoffs, alphabetical order. So the first one is the Chicago Bears. To miss the playoff is minus 400. It's certain, but it's I mean, yeah, odds. You could do it. You can do it. I don't care about the juice. Go ahead. Bet it.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to win it either way. I don't know. It feels like a little bit too much to me, but you're going to win it either way.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a moneymaker.
Right.
But
that's kind of a feel-good bet.
Yeah, exactly. The Detroit Lions, though, to make the playoffs, plus 325, to miss it, minus 450. So the odds say it's more likely the Lions miss the playoffs than the Bears, which is kind of wild. To make the playoffs at plus 325, it's a long shot, but man, that schedule, it's kind of interesting.
I just talked myself into 8 wins there. I don't know if 8 wins can make the playoffs, but if you stumble into 2 more wins, that's right on that 7 seed territory.
Honestly, if they find a way to go 2-0 against the Vikings, they're going to have a shot over them.
Yep.
I think it
Yeah.
comes down. I think the final playoff spot comes down to the Vikings and Cardinals.
Hmm.
However, if they beat the Vikings in the division, we've seen the Cardinals collapse every year. So never know. I would still side with no, but this is a bet I would not be willing to bet the
Hmm.
no for.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I mean, you can sprinkle a little on the Lions to make the playoffs just because it'd be fun. And if it happens, you can show all your friends like you believed in Dan Campbell. That's a fun bet to place. Packers to make the playoffs, minus 400. Again, this one's more risky than betting the Bears to not make the playoffs with the same exact odds. So if you're saying you want to place a minus 400 bet, I would rather say the Bears miss than for the Packers to make it.
100%.
However, I feel pretty good about both of them.
Yep. I mean, right now in the NFC North, it's been this way since '92. I mean, it's a Packers division. As soon as Aaron Rodgers leaves, then we can have a conversation. But yeah, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that the Packers don't win the division this year. If that makes sense.
When do the Packers play the Vikings the second time? Week 17. Okay.
So so realistically, that game could be for the division.
It could be.
Yeah.
If the Packers, knock on wood, let's say if Aaron Rodgers gets hurt against the Lions in week 9, because Dan Campbell put a bounty on his head, which means you got 8 games out of Aaron Rodgers essentially. Rest of the way is Jordan Love. What's the chances you think the Packers make the playoffs?
I put it 50-50. I mean, it's still in that scenario. Like if Rodgers is playing 8 games, that's at least 6 wins. That means you need to probably get 3 from Jordan Love. You got to imagine that at some point Jordan Love is going to show some ability to lead a team. If it's coming in a couple of games in a row, I don't. I think they make the playoffs. I should say if Rodgers plays at least half the season. But I guess in that scenario, that really could be the division: Minnesota, Green Bay, Week 17.
I mean, if it's Jordan Love in there and the odds are 50-50, I would still take it.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I believe in Jordan Love, but I believe Rodgers probably will play more than 8 games, right? So
I
that's
also
why it's
do
a bet
think,
worth making.
yeah, I also do think that the Packers have good players other than Aaron Rodgers that might be able to hide some deficiencies at quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
chance. I hope it doesn't come down to it.
Oh God, no.
Okay, then the last would be the Vikings, and obviously this is the most interesting one in terms of making or missing. For the Vikings to make the playoffs, it's minus 125. For them to miss, it's minus 105. And again, like, I believe they're going to get the final wild card spot.
I do too.
Minus 125 doesn't do it for me, though.
No, I don't love the value at all. I was doing this the other day, just running through the NFC teams in my head that are going to make the playoffs. So obviously it'd be Packers, 49ers, Rams and 49ers probably, Buccaneers. There's about 7 or 8 teams that you can find, and I've done it a couple times, and each time I've landed on it's going to be between the Cardinals and Vikings, like you said. I would say I do think the Vikings make the playoffs, but like the minus 125 is not fun at all in my mind.
No.
It feels like favorable odds for something that might not be favorable.
Yeah, like I feel, well, once they're scheduled to start the season, I know they got the Packers week 1, then Packers, they go to Philadelphia, home against Detroit, home against or overseas against the Saints, I believe. Yeah, in London that week. So if those are your first 4 games, I think there's a decent chance they go 2-2.
Mm-hmm.
And the odds are probably going to be more favorable to bet them to make it at that point. So I would wait, personally. Plus, the Cardinals are going to start hot. What are their schedule? Right. JJ Watt's healthy. Kyler Murray's not bored of studying yet. Their schedule to start's not easy though. They go home against the Chiefs, away to Las Vegas, home against the Rams, away to Carolina. That's interesting.
That sounds like a 2-2 to me as well.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. Okay, so those are the to make or miss the playoff bets. We can just look at Super Bowl odds really quick. I'm not placing a bet on any of the NFC North teams to win it. However, the Packers obviously have the best odds at plus 1,200. That means they have the tied for the fifth best odds to win the Super Bowl, tied with the Rams, behind the Bills, Bucks, Chiefs, and Chargers. Vikings are plus 2,800 if you are interested, but I would suggest you don't bet that. Agreed?
Agreed. I will say I did throw a future on the Packers doing the Super Bowl, just being a Packer fan, but
Yeah, I mean, it's fine.
I don't necessarily advise it. I mean, in my mind, there's not a whole lot of elite football teams in the NFL right now, and I do think the Packers fit into that category of elite football teams. So I don't think it's a horrible bet if you're betting the Packers doing the Super Bowl, but anybody else, don't touch with the 10-foot ball.
We talked about this on the podcast a lot, but professional sports are just professional wrestling. So everything's storyline driven. What's the best storyline that could happen? I think there's two storylines out of the NFC. One is obviously Tom Brady coming back, winning a ring, and retiring. The other, I guess, would probably be Aaron Rodgers over after being back to back. Oh no, are you still here?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, the chat's being weird. Okay, it said the chat wasn't connected, but obviously
You glitched out there for a second.
How could Aaron Rodgers win, a third MVP? Like everything's setting up perfectly for him to win a third MVP with Devontae Adams leaving. Now he's really going to have to LeBron James, Cleveland Cavaliers it and carry everybody. And if he does it and he goes to the Super Bowl, this is how he gets the Super Bowl, beats Tom Brady on the way. Like that's a good storyline too. He would be the ultimate villain of the NFL.
Mm-hmm. It's so fucking funny how Rodgers turned into a villain like 2 years ago, and now everyone in the NFL like absolutely hates him.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess I probably would hate him too. I think 100%. It's too funny to hate him, but
right.
I mean, half of the fan base already hates him, of the Packers fan base. Looking at win totals here, Chicago Bears, it's set at 6 games. For them to go over 6 wins is plus 100. Under 6 wins is minus 130. This is one I probably wouldn't bet. If I do bet, I would side with the under. Looking at games they could win. Looking at their non-divisional, they do play at home against the Texans, away against the Giants, away against the Falcons, away against the Jets. So, I mean, they could get 2-3 wins out of there.
Yes. I don't see where the other wins come from, though.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Because I think they go 0-6 in the division this year. Also, I mean, going to New England, they're not going to win. Going to Dallas, they're not going to win. I don't think they're going to win against the Giants. Start with 49ers. I'll say it again. It's always fun to make fun of the Bears, but this team is a dumpster fire. They have a whole new coaching staff in. It almost feels like this is a year where they end up with the number 1 pick, and then they can kind of go off of there and get everyone together for next year and kind of come up a little bit that way.
They also play a lot of teams with good pass rushes.
Yes.
And that's going to obviously kill the Bears' offensive line. So even like teams like the Jets, the Giants, who definitely have invested in their defensive front, that's probably going to be the difference. And on the other side, I mean, the Bears lose Khalil Mack. So the secondary is going to look even worse.
And the thing is,
and they're probably going to trade Robert Quinn. Why wouldn't they? Why keep him?
Right. The thing is, too, with running, Justin Fields, right? I mean, his best skill right now is probably his legs. The way to beat running quarterback is just get pressure as soon as possible. So I wouldn't be horribly surprised if, you know, the Justin Fields, let's say Justin Fields chance start coming out, week 5, week 6.
Who? Oh, I was gonna say who is their offensive coordinator, but former Packer coach.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I think they have the worst coaching staff in football. I think
Sure.
there's a case to be made there.
Yeah.
So I just think there's nothing redeemable about the Chicago Bears, is what I'm trying to say.
There's nothing that jumps out that makes me think that I want to bet them.
No. Nope. Detroit Lions, on the other hand, it looks like their win total has come up to 6.5. So there's no chance for that push, unfortunately. However, over 6.5 wins is minus 135. Under 6.5 wins is plus 105. We talked about their non-divisional schedule. Honestly, like, I don't know, man. Like, I could easily see an 8-1 season.
Right.
Like, they're going to tie one. It's going to be a Dan Campbell's thing. But to say they can get 8 wins, it seems like they can.
Yeah, and we talked about the Lions schedule already. Just that out of conference schedule. That's 6 wins right there. And you're telling me they need to pick, one more up in the division? That seems pretty easy to me.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'd love the over. I wish it wasn't minus 135. I wish it was like at a 115 or something,
Mm-hmm.
but I'll take it. Packers is at 10.5 wins, minus 150 for the over on that, plus 120 for the under. I think this is a really, really tough one. Don't you?
I think so. I do think it's over. I mean, to me, the Packers are too good of a team to lose 7 or more
Yeah.
games.
We talked about on Lombardi's sweep, their schedule, how brutal it is, not just with difficulty in terms of opponents, but where the opponents come, where the bye weeks come. The fact that moved to a Tuesday. Is ESPN wrong? Do the Packers have a Tuesday game against the Rams?
That should
Oh,
be
that's for
Monday.
sure wrong. It says it's at 12:15 a.m. Okay.
I think that's supposed to
Oh,
be Monday.
ESPN.
It's a Monday night game, right?
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
going to say, because they're coming off their bye week, it's a Monday night game. So the fact that they have an extra day to prepare usually, which is nice,
Mm-hmm.
it's irrelevant because they're coming off a bye.
Right.
However, shout out ESPN, who has been doing this to me too much lately. They've been doing this to me during UFC. They screw up every schedule.
Always.
But yeah, right now the Packers are playing the Rams on Tuesday, December 20th, 12:15 a.m. So tune in. Tickets
Get
are
your
only
alarm
$99.
clock set. Yeah, get your alarm clock set if you're watching it at home.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one. But yeah, 10.5, like, should they win more than 10.5 games? Yes. If they start the season slow, which I think that it's really possible given all the new moving parts on offense,
Sure.
that's so hard to overcome because it's tough game, tough game, tough game. They fly over to London, they come back, they have more games on the road. It's not a bet I'm willing to place. If I do place it, it will be on the over, but at 150, I'm staying away from it.
Totally agree. The Packers, I mean, we talked about it how many times on Lombardi sweep. It's almost like they're in a transition year while still contending. And, it's really tough to win a Super Bowl like that. But it's hard to go against, the last 3 years Matt LaFleur has won 13 or more games in the regular season. Not necessarily speaking to his coaching or whatever, but I mean, that's a trend that doesn't seem to, or it shouldn't be too harmed by the departure of Devontae Adams.
I agree. The last one is the Vikings. It's set at 9 wins, minus 130 on the over, plus 100 on the under. And when I projected their wins, it was exactly 9. So, I mean, the idea would be to go over, probably, or I don't know. Okay, so if it gets exactly 9, by the way, for the beginners, that means it's a push. That means you just get your money back. I think I would bet the over, I guess. Just because I do think Mike Zimmer was a fucking issue in the building. So just getting him away could just lift everything up.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is one I probably don't want to bet either. If it goes down to 8.5 wins, I'm willing to bet the over. Otherwise, I don't think I'm going to bet 9.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is when you think of the Vikings, do you think they're, not necessarily average, but not necessarily great, kind of in that gray area? And that seems to be what 9 wins is this year, right? Right on the cusp of playoffs. To be honest, I would bet it both ways. I mean, if you were telling me that I have to bet on this, I would bet it both ways.
I wanted to look at their bye week just to see if it would be super beneficial or not. It's week 7, so it truly is right in the middle. They come out of their bye to play the Cardinals, which honestly is going to be the make or break game, probably. So it's good that they have a bye week right before it. Man, I don't know. I would avoid that bet, but I'll watch it.
Yeah, I think just talking through there, I almost want to avoid all 4 of those bets on over under on wins. The one that speaks the most to me is probably the Lions, because just as we talked about, I think they do see at least 6 wins this year.
I agree. And speaking of Lions, this is a bet I really like, or series of bets that I like. They have regular season series matchups on Bet Online. So, what is the record going to be between two conference or two divisional teams? So, first one's Bears versus Lions. If you think they're going to split it, go 1-1, then it is plus 110. For Lions to win both games is plus 230, and the Bears to win both games plus 240. We talked about this a little bit ago, but I do like the plus 230 on the Lions.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Like, they got edge rushers now who are going to get up after Fields. Obviously, they sneakily have a decent amount of weapons on offense. So I'm all for it. I do like that bet.
Yeah, like the Lions are not, I don't want to call them an up and coming team, because I think that's kind of been the notion for the Matthew Stafford era, is that, they're a player or two away. So we've kind of seen what they've done in that situation. But I think this bet relies more on how bad the Bears are than how good the Lions are. Mm-hmm. And, if the Lions can get a win, they're going to take the win. And with maybe the worst football team in the NFL twice, it's hard to argue that the Lions lose both those games, I'll say.
What happened between them last year? Do you remember?
I mean, those games are just blurs, like not even relative to me.
They lost to the Bears twice. First time, 24-14 in week 4. What happened in that game? Jared Goff was fine. Justin Fields did play. He didn't play great. He played fine. Montgomery kind of went crazy. And then they lost the second game 16-14. I believe this is one of the games where Jared Goff threw it away on 4th down. Andy Dalton played. So what are you going to do? Red Rocket's going to torch you.
Yeah, that's why the Bears won.
Yeah, what are you going to do? It happens to everybody. This is one that we know pretty well. Packers versus Bears, Luke. We know Aaron Rodgers is owner of the Chicago Bears. Rodgers, Cobb, all the older Packers definitely beat up on the Bears every single year. For them to go 2-0 is minus 180. Again, I wish the odds were a little bit more lucrative, but it seems pretty certain to me.
The only scenario out of those 3 games is the Packers, go 2-0. I guess this will be my first guarantee of the year. I guarantee the Packers go 2-0 in those games, because one of them is going to be Sunday night. I think week 2 is Sunday night, right?
It's early, yeah.
And that game, if I'm not mistaken,
you're right.
If the Bears lose week 1, Packers win week 1, then they'll be tied for most wins all time or something, and that game will be for the that's kind of the last piece in that Packers Bears rivalry. So that's a guaranteed win in my book. And then I would imagine the next time they play, I think it's real late in the season. Bears are going to be out of contention, and maybe Justin Fields isn't even playing.
Honestly, yeah. So yeah, I definitely like that. The 2-0 Packers against the Lions is interesting to me, though. Packers to go 2-0 is minus 155. To split it is plus 175. and then Lions to win both is plus 850. I would lean towards the split.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
I totally agree. Like I said before, the Lions have always played the Packers tough, no matter how good the Packers are, no matter how bad the Lions are. And every single year, it feels like that Week 18 game. It comes down to the last second, or the Lions have a 14-point lead with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It never really feels like the Packers dominate those games, or even really come close to winning by double digits.
Mm-hmm.
That reason alone, I mean, the Lions will always play you tough, especially with Dan Campbell. I mean, they have dogs on that team. Yeah, I like the split there. I don't necessarily think Packers lose both the games to the Lions. I could see them going 2-0 over 0-2, but the 1-1 feels like the right spot.
The only thing I would say is, so the first time they play them, it's at Detroit, week 9. It's a noon game. It just feels like the perfect opportunity for the Packers to win that game is coming off of a Sunday night.
Mm-hmm.
It's right before the Cowboys, so it could be a look-ahead game, could be caught in a tough spot. To me, I feel like the Packers are going to win in Detroit, and I think they're going to struggle against Detroit the final week.
Yeah.
So I would be more willing to go Packers 2-0 and then bet the Lions in that week 18 game. I guess you're
Okay.
kind of rolling the dice, but I'm just saying that because the money line for the Lions to win that game might be better than plus 175, which is what the series tied odds are. I don't know. You're rolling the dice a lot, though, because week 18 is so far away.
Right. That Sunday night game, is that the Packers play the Bills, that game?
Yep.
So that could be a game where, if the Packers start off slow, maybe go 1-2 in their first 3 games or something like that, and then they lose that game, that kind of feels like the narrative of, Aaron Rodgers got his money and he's not, playing MVP anymore. I mean, that Lions game almost feels like a fuck you, I'm still the best player in the NFL kind of game.
I agree. I'm quickly bringing up Aaron Rodgers against the Lions. 18-6 all time. He obviously lost against them in Detroit last year.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. So he's lost. Oh, he didn't play that game. He's lost 2 out of the last 4 times in Detroit. 2018 really shouldn't count. They lost to Detroit both times that year. But
Yikes.
yeah, I guess his record in Detroit isn't that crazy. How many times has he lost against Detroit at home? Just once, I think.
Once on that fake field goal. Was that was a game?
Twice.
Like 2 years ago? Pat McAfee was on the call?
Yeah. He got hurt right away. They lost 31-0. Yeah, Prater threw that touchdown. He lost one other time to the Lions back in 2015. I don't remember this game. Rodgers attempted 61 passes, completed only 57% of them, passed for 333 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, lost 18-16. Weird game.
I don't know. I'm sure we've seen it many times, but I don't remember Aaron Rodgers ever throwing 61 passes in a game.
No.
Especially when you're only scoring 16 points.
James Starks was the only running back to even carry the football, 15 carries, 42 yards.
Who scored in that game for the Packers?
Justin Perillo and Richard Rodgers, of course. How didn't you remember that game?
Wow. Justin Perillo feels like something that I should remember, and I just don't.
What week was this? Week 10. No one's there. Devontae's there. He saw 21 targets in 2018, 2017 probably, right? Or no, sorry, 2015.
2015.
So he was young.
So 2015 was the year Jordy tore his ACL.
Yeah, no Jordy.
Devontae got hurt that year. That's when they lost to the Cardinals in the playoffs on Rodgers' 2 Hail Marys, I think.
I believe so. This is second year Devontae Adams But yeah, Devontae saw 21 targets. Randall Cobb saw 10 targets. James Starks and Jared Abbrederis 7 targets each. What a what a receiving core.
I mean, right there just perfectly sums up the any given Lions Packers game. Like weird shit happens, and the Lions always play the Packers tough.
And by the way, Kelvin Johnson playing did not score, but Lance Moore and Brandon Pettigrew did.
How about when's the last time you heard what you thought about Brandon Pettigrew?
I don't know. He was a big dude though.
Mm-hmm.
6'5", 257. He did not play at 257. He is more like 275.
Like Charles Barkley out there.
Interesting. Yeah, legit. Joey Bell. 14 carries, 17 yards. Guaranteed I started him that week. Fuck, I forgot about him. Okay. But yeah, I guess now that I look at it, I would probably go Packers 2-0 is probably the best bet. I'm probably going to avoid this though.
Mm-hmm.
Packers against the Vikings. For the Packers to go 2-0 is plus 200. The Vikings to go 2-0 plus 315. And for them to split is even money at plus 100. It feels like they're just going to split.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah. I mean, they always split.
Yeah.
You know, in one of the games, Justin Jefferson will have a 60-yard touchdown. Adam Thielen will have 2 touchdowns in a game. I mean, Dalvin Cook probably in their first game will run for 150 yards. I mean, we've seen this how many times again and again and again. And like you said, Zach, the Vikings always find a way to shoot themselves in the foot. Like they'll come away with a win against the Packers, but that second one, Kirk Cousins throw a dumb interception, someone will fumble, and Packers end up, getting away. And that seems to happen a lot in the Packers-Vikings rivalry in my lifetime, I guess, since Brett Favre left in the Aaron Rodgers era. The Packers just squeak by the Vikings.
They also got a new Sean McVay descendant as their head coach, which means they're going to pass on a field goal that's going to shoot them in the foot at some point as well. They all do it. And that's probably going to be the reason why they lose a big game. Maybe it's against the Packers. Maybe it's against the Lions. For the Vikings to go 2-0 against the Lions is plus 115. The exact same odds for them to split 1-1. And for the Lions to win both of them is plus 575. I would side with the split. But again, this one is pretty uncertain to me.
What did you say the split was for odds?
Plus 115. Same as for the Vikings to go 2-0.
I think out of all the bets that we've talked about, this one is the one I don't want to touch the most because I can see all 3 of those outcomes happening. Like a realistic shot that all 3 of those happen. Based on that alone, I think if I was forced to bet on this, I'd bet the split. Not necessarily that the Lions are better than the Vikings, but I mean it's NFC North football. Weird shit happens. Like the Lions aren't a bad team anymore. They're a solid team. And like I said before, the Vikings are a solid team. So it's almost like a warrior fight, 2 gladiators going after it, and maybe the Vikings are a little better than the Lions. But either way, I mean, don't touch it. It would be my advice because all 3 things can happen just like that.
Yeah, completely agreed. The last one here is Vikings against the Bears. And for the Vikings to go 2-0 against the Bears is plus 100. For them to splits plus 125. I would bet them to go 2-0 at plus 100. That looks good.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that a lot. In my mind, someone's telling me Kirk Cousins is really bad at Soldier Field, but to be honest, I don't care.
Right.
Not this year.
Not with let's see. Yeah, not with that offense.
Right. Okay. Looking at awards. Actually, we should do this. I was wondering what awards people in the NFC North are going to win. Dan Campbell's plus 1,400 to win Coach of the Year.
I also saw something somewhere that Dan Campbell is like the 6th best odds to be the first coach fired.
Boy, that would be a Lions thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they'd do that.
No.
He has the same Coach of the Year odds as Kevin O'Connell, who's the rookie coach for the Vikings. Dayball, McDermott, and Brandon Staley are the three above them. I don't know. I like both. I could see both of them winning it. I think Dan Campbell is more likely to win it. But yeah.
I mean, that's a fun bet too, if you just want to throw in something fun.
Right. Vikings coach isn't going to win it, or Bears coach isn't going to win it. Matt LaFleur is not going to win it. He's plus 2,500. But yeah. Not going to happen. I don't think there's a comeback player of the year candidate. Doesn't look like it in the odds. Mitch Trubisky could get it. He's up there in the odds.
I'm just curious. Who's leading right now? Do you have those up?
Jameis Winston.
Okay.
Which is fair. Yeah. Derrick Henry, number 2. Michael Thomas, number 3.
I feel like Tom Brady should be number 1. He just retired.
Maybe that's why he needed that award.
Right. It's probably the only one he doesn't have. Oh, he has one. He came off the ACL.
I was going to ask if he won it that year. He had to have. Other defensive awards. Okay, defensive rookie of the year. Aiden Hutchinson's number 1 in the odds at plus 450. Kyle Hamilton's plus 700. I know you and I both really like him. I could definitely see Kyle Hamilton winning it. I don't love putting a bet on Aiden Hutchinson. I don't like it.
I think I like it more than the other rookies. Who's number 2? Kyle Hamilton was number 2.
Kyle Hamilton and Kayvon Thibodeau are tied for 2. George Karlaftis and Jermaine Johnson, Trayvon Walker, Derek Stingley, Sauce Gardner, Quay Walker, Devin Lloyd.
I mean, I'm a Sauce Gardner and Kyle Hamilton fan, but I think in Defensive Rookie of the Year, the most control I think you have on defense to win that award is as a pass rusher. That's the only thing that's leading me towards Aiden Hutchinson, and I believe Aiden Hutchinson is the best pass rusher in this draft. And I don't see why he doesn't play every single defensive snap for the Lions this year.
That's super fair. They do play a lot of bad teams. So yeah, I was overthinking. I was totally just thinking Lions versus Packers. I don't think he gets sacks against the Packers, but he plays the Bears twice. And that could be, without an exaggeration, 5 sacks. Their offensive line's so bad that he plays both the Giants and the Jets, I believe. That could be another 5 sacks.
I actually think I like this bet the most out of any of them that we've talked about so far. Like to actually win money on it.
Yeah. I don't hate it. I'm blinded by my Kyle Hamilton love.
I agree. I think Kyle Hamilton's, like I said on the show yesterday, I think he's the best player in this draft that when it's all said and done. But I don't know that he has the ability to control himself winning the award.
You're correct. He needs the balls to go his way to make the play, obviously.
Right.
Yeah, that's fair. MVP for shits and gigs, Aaron Rodgers is plus 1,600, which is 6th best. Yeah, like I said, he's going to have to do something we've never seen for him to win it 3 times in a row.
Right.
It was kind of a miracle the media gave it to him this past time. However, if he has the same exact stats without Devontae Adams,
what does it mean?
That's certainly a case. That's a case to do it.
Right.
Randy comes into the chat at the perfect time, and can Aaron three-peat?
What do you think, Randy? Yeah, what do you think?
What do you think? I said he couldn't win back-to-back because of how much the media hated him, and he did. So
the only thing for me is in NFL MVPs, it almost feels like the voting goes by the way of who's the hot thing right now, which is why it was wild that like Joe Burrow didn't win the MVP in my mind last year. I mean, we saw Matt Ryan get an MVP on it. We saw Cam Newton get an MVP on it. We saw Sean Alexander get an MVP on it. Is Aaron Rodgers going to be the hot thing this year? It feels like there's way too many young quarterbacks that are part of that kind of their next step is elite, that if they make that jump, they'll win MVP. I guess, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, those 3 come to mind right away.
And the bet I already placed was Lamar Jackson. That's who I think is going to win it. However, if there's any, year for Tom Brady to win it, How about the year that he comes back, the year he doesn't have Gronkowski, and the year he loses his center who came back to Tampa just to play with him, in training camp? He's at plus 1,200. He's right ahead of Rodgers.
What's
I could see it.
for shits and giggles? What's Patrick Mahomes? Because I think Patrick Mahomes as well.
He's third. He's plus 900.
No, I'm sure Josh Allen's one.
Yep. Josh Allen at plus 500. Justin Herbert after him at plus 700. Then Mahomes, Burrow, Brady, Rodgers, Stafford, Jackson, Wilson, Hurts, Carr.
Interesting.
First non-quarterback is Jonathan Taylor at plus 4,000.
So I guess I would not bet Aaron Rodgers to win MVP. Should he win MVP based on last year? Probably. I mean, he's top 2 player in the NFL right now. It almost feels like kind of like Giannis winning back to back, or I don't think the NBA gives it to Nikola Jokic this year just because he's won it twice in a row. It's all storyline driven, bringing the show full circle. So I think it'd be very tough for Aaron Rodgers to win MVP unless he goes for 5,000 and 50 touchdowns, in my mind.
Right. Yeah, like at the end of the year when we look at his stats, we could make a case for him to win it most likely.
Right.
To your point, it's going to be hard for that to happen. They have odds for his stats up here, and where they set his stats, they clearly think he's going to take a step backwards.
Which
so I think
sense.
this is where your edge comes, because I'm not sure if he takes a step back. Last year, Aaron Rodgers, with one fewer game because he was out with COVID, 4,115 yards, 37 passing touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Where his odds are for Aaron Rodgers to throw more than 6 interceptions is minus 125, under 6 interceptions, minus 105.
That's what you want right there, under 6 interceptions.
Last time he passed for 6 interceptions was 2017, and it was exactly 6. Again, if you get a push, you get your money back. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's free. Yeah, right. Correct. You will get your money back on that bet.
I agree. Aaron Rodgers passing touchdowns, over under 31. Over is minus 105, under is minus 125. Again, in one fewer game last year, he passed for 37. Year before that, he passed for 48. I like the over.
I do too. 31 seems way too low for a guy like Aaron Rodgers. The only thing that I'm thinking in my mind is, I guess you can kind of tie this in for everything we talked about for Aaron Rodgers, including MVP, is it's almost like the opposite of Aiden Hutchinson, because Rodgers doesn't have Devontae Adams. Like, of course, he has Randall Cobb and Allen Lazard, who has a connection with. But what about guys like Sammy Watkins and Christian Watson, who haven't practiced yet? You got, Juwan Winfrey. We know that he's good, but when he's on the field, it's kind of up in the air a little bit. I mean, there's obviously still a learning curve there. So I don't necessarily know. I think Rodgers will be at the top of his game, of course, but will the receivers come to show up to help him win that MVP? I think is a big question there.
100%. I do think they can do it. Like, I don't think the Packers are better this year without Devontae.
Right.
But to say, like, what everyone's thinking and what the odds are saying, and I'm going to tell you is not true. Everyone thinks the Packers are going to be extremely run heavy.
No.
It's not going to change for multiple reasons. One, Aaron Rodgers calls the plays when they work, and he's going to audible out of it. 2, their offensive line isn't good enough. When they get down the red zone, they can't just run it. Like, that's where it's man on man, big on big, and the Packers don't get movement up front. They just don't. So if you're talking about touchdowns, which is what we just were, Rodgers is still going to get those red zone touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
That'll be interesting. Obviously, we can talk about this on Lombardi Sweep, but I guess that red zone offense, because Devontae Adams is like probably the best red zone threat in the NFL. Not necessarily size, but just his ability to get open. To see what they do without Devontae Adams in a one-on-one scenario is going to be really interesting this year.
I agree. The other Aaron Rodgers prop is over under 3,950 and a half yards. So over is minus 130, under is plus 100. Last year, with one fewer game, he passed for 4,115 yards. Last time he passed for under 4,000 yards was 2017 when he only played 7 games. Last time he passed for under 4,000 yards in a season that he played a full season was 2015. I don't see him going under 4,000 yards.
I don't either. The only question that comes to my mind is, where do the big plays come from this year?
I mean, I think Alan Lazard. I think he's still going to see some.
Yeah, maybe a couple of screenplays to Aaron Jones.
Yeah, I think Sammy Watkins is going to be a vertical threat.
Yeah, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate on this. That we're so used to Devontae Adams being wide open in the middle of the field and getting those run after the catch. Or, I mean, we saw Rob Tonyan 2 years ago dominate doing that. It's hard for me to find 50-yard touchdowns on this Packers offense right now, which makes me a little hesitant on that. But knowing how good Aaron Rodgers is, it's really hard to bet against Aaron Rodgers.
Right. I was just going to see if they had.
I will say, too, when I might have told you this, I don't know, that when I covered training camp on Wednesday, it is just wild how much better Aaron Rodgers is than every single person like on the team. Him at 50% is guys at 100%.
It's completely, he's on a different level. Last year, that's not true. StatMuse failed me. That's not a correct stat. Never mind. I was going to see how many 40-plus yard touchdowns he threw last year, because for me, for my memory, he didn't throw very many big plays.
He did have an 80-yard screenplay that Aaron Jones ran into the defender on 2 yards from the end zone.
Yes, he did. Justin Fields, we can do this really quickly. Just a cut call. Over under 14 interceptions, minus 115 both ways. I would probably go under because I don't think they're going to put him in that position.
I would also say under. I think if Justin Fields is going to throw an interception, he would rather run the ball.
Yep. And then over under 17 and a half passing touchdowns. I think I would go under that as well at minus 125.
Totally agree. Feels like this offense is going to be David Montgomery this year.
This one's interesting. Over under rushing touchdowns for Justin Fields, 4.5. I don't mind the over on that.
I don't either. I mean,
minus 115 both ways.
I think that, if the Bears get to the red zone, probably not likely very much in games, right? But if they do, their number one and number two options have to be David Montgomery up the middle or some kind of option play with Justin Fields.
I agree. Bringing up Kirk Cousins' stats really quick. So here's his touchdown totals the past 4 years. He played one fewer game last year and one fewer game 3 years ago, but last 4 have been 30, 26, 35, and 33. His passing prop is over under 30 and a half passing touchdowns, 115 both ways. I like the over.
Yeah, I agree. To me, Kirk Cousins is a light version of Drew Brees. I'm a noted guy who says Drew Brees really wasn't that great at quarterback. I don't think Drew Brees necessarily won any, or I'm sure he won some, but he wasn't the reason why the Saints, won tons of games or anything like that in my mind. And that's kind of how Kirk Cousins is in my mind too. Like, they're good enough to, put everyone in the right position, but are they going to make the play? I mean, they've shown they can. They've also, Kirk Cousins shown that he can. So I do like, he will throw touchdowns. He has weapons to do that. I would take the over on touchdowns and passing yards. I just don't know how much that actually helps the team, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And speaking of passing yards, so since 2015, this has been his passing total each year. 4166, 4917, 4093, 4298, 3603 in 15 games, 4265 and 4221, over under 41 and a half yards this year. Again, I like the over.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he had 2 seasons there where he almost threw 5,000 yards.
Right, and now he gets a young, pass-heavy offensive coach.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Mike Zimmer fired multiple coordinators because they didn't run the ball enough. So
I think that if Mike Zimmer had it his way, he would have ran the ball every single play of the season.
Yep. 100%.
Dude would have been a great coach in the 40s.
I'm not even sure if that's true. Just for shits and gigs, Kirk Cousins' most passing yards in the league would be plus 2,000.
I'll be
Not
honest,
a
I don't hate
terrible
that.
bet.
I don't hate it.
Yeah, me neither. Worse odds than Aaron Rodgers, and that shouldn't be true.
Yeah, right. I think Kirk Cousins finishes top 5 in passing yards this year.
I agree. Those are quarterbacks. They should have running back props here. Again, if you're just tuning in on YouTube now, there's a link in the description for you to get over $2,000 of deposit bonuses signing up with Bet Online Sportsbook today.
Just before you get into the odds on the running backs in the NFC North, there are probably 6 to 8 like starting running backs in the NFC North right now.
Yeah, really good running backs. One of which is Aaron Jones. Total touchdowns, so rushing and receiving touchdowns over or under 9.5, 115 both ways. It seems like an easy over for me.
Everyone should be betting that over.
Yeah, that's surprisingly low. What did he have last year?
I think it would be like it's as close to a guarantee as I'll give, but I mean Aaron Jones is probably getting at least 6 rushing and at least 4 receiving.
This prop is solely because everyone doesn't understand the player AJ Dillon is. Everyone just loves him, think he's going to run over everybody. Again, not true. His yards per carry, even in the red zone, even within the 10-yard line, is not as good as Aaron Jones. After contact, not as good as Aaron Jones. AJ Dillon has, if you've ever seen that episode of SpongeBob where he has those inflatable arms, that's his legs. They're really not that strong, or at least he doesn't show it. Here is Aaron Jones's touchdown totals the past 3 years. 19 in 2019. He had 11 in 2020 and 10 last year. Again, over under 9.5. And last year he played only 15 games, so 2 fewer games. Year before that he played 14 games. I like 9.5. That seems easy.
Yeah, it seems easy. Other than I guess Aaron Rodgers, the best player on Packers offense is usually score a ton of touchdowns, and with Devontae Adams out, I mean, it makes sense that Aaron Jones fills that touchdown role.
I agree. AJ Dillon, they just have his rushing touchdowns, and that's over under 5.5. Last year he got exactly 5. I think 6 is fine, and that's minus 130.
Yeah, and just going back to Devontae Adams, someone has to make up. I don't know off the top of my head how many touchdowns Devontae Adams had last year, but someone's got to make up double-digit touchdowns. It feels like the running back, like just going back to Aaron Jones, it feels like it kind of gets split between those two. Maybe Lazard picks up a couple more here and there, but it feels like the running back score this year.
I think his yardage is more interesting to me. So Aaron Jones, again, combined rushing and receiving over under 1,300.5. And that's split even, 115 both ways. Last year he had roughly almost 1,200 yards. Year before that, in only 14 games, he had over 1,400. Year before that, he had over about 1,500.
Really?
So last year he was way down. 1,300.5. It's too weird of a number. I don't want to bet it, but I think I would side with the under if I had to.
It is, because does it feel like AJ Dillon will get 750 rushing yards this year?
I don't think he will, but he could.
Right. And then, so if he does get 750, then what? You have to make up 550 receiving?
He had 800 last year, AJ Dillon.
Wow. Interesting. I would also side with the under because I don't think that he gets more than 500 receiving yards. I don't think that's too crazy to say.
Mm-hmm. Correct. But yeah, that's one I would probably just avoid if I could. Looking at other teams, a lot of running backs here, so I would invite everyone to go and explore the odds for these. DeAndre Swift, over under 8.5 combined touchdowns. So
Over.
rushing and receiving touchdowns. Over. I like that
Over.
too. And that's minus 115 as well. Over under 9 rushing touchdowns for Dalvin Cook.
I don't know. The Vikings to me are a big play offense. I mean, does
Mm-hmm.
Dalvin Cook get 9 rushing? Does Dalvin Cook get 5 goal line touchdowns this year? It seems plausible.
Mm-hmm. Last year in 13 games, he had 6 rushing touchdowns. He played 14 games both of the seasons prior, and he finished with 13 and 16. I believe he's going to get double digit, but yeah, I would do it. I would do it because at an even 9, I like the push. So I think I would go over because I think there's a higher chance he gets 10 than 8.
Then 8. Yeah, I would agree. That 9 push sold it for me.
Mm-hmm. David Montgomery, this one's a tough one, actually. Over under 6.5 rushing touchdowns. The over is plus 100. The under is minus 130.
The only thing that worries me about David Montgomery is, I mean, I think he's a very good football player. I think that he will probably be the featured player in that offense, right? Um, but how much do the players around him in that offense help him out?
How many rushing touchdowns do you think he got last year?
If I had to guess, I would say probably around an 8 to a 10 mark, somewhere in there.
I would have guessed way lower. He ended up getting 7, which is higher than I thought he had.
Really?
He played 13 games. He had 7 rushing touchdowns. I honestly would have guessed probably like 4. So
Okay.
I don't,
Did he have a
with that in
multi-touchdown
mind,
game?
then I don't mind it.
Yeah. He had a multi-touchdown game or something last year? Why did I think he had so many?
Seems like something he would do. I'll let you know. He against the Giants, he had 2. Against the Lions, he had 2. So he had 2 games with 2 touchdowns, but nothing crazy.
Maybe I'm hanging out with too many Bear fans.
Maybe. He's really good.
Yeah.
2 years ago, he had a couple really big games.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
But yeah, over under 6.5. I think I don't mind guessing he can get 7 at plus 100. I like the odds for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know that the Bears score a ton of touchdowns this year. I don't know if they score enough for him to get double digits. I'll say that. I don't even know if they score enough for him to get 7. In my mind, I mean, can it happen?
Okay.
Yeah, but I think this team is too bad for one player to really stand out.
In my mind, they're knocking down a couple touchdowns because they think Khalil Herbert's going to take a bunch, and I don't think that's going to be true.
Yeah, I don't think you have to worry about him.
That's it for running backs. I'm interested really quick for wide receivers just to see what they have Alan Lazard at. If they have him here.
I'll say Alan Lazard gets 10 or more this year.
Ooh, I like these odds. Over under 5.5.
Yeah, everyone should be hammering the over on that. That's the number one clear bet that we talked about today.
Minus 115. Yeah, easy. Super
Yep.
easy.
Alan Lazard might
Adam,
have 6 touchdowns in the first 4 weeks.
Yeah. Honestly, okay, so here's his he has multiple stats here. So over under 5.5 touchdowns. Over seems easy. Over under 725.5 receiving yards. That one's a lot harder than touchdowns, I think. I would still go over though.
What did you say it was? I'm sorry.
725.
Yeah, over.
And then 54.5 receptions. And again, I would go over probably.
I mean, you have to go over being Aaron Rodgers' number 1 guy right now. And if the Packers want the run game to work, the receivers are going to have to work. And if the receivers are going to have to work, it's going to be Lazard who's going to be the number one option or the number one opportunity for that.
The only reason I don't think I would touch this or the receiving yards is just because we have seen how quickly he gets injured.
Yeah.
He has last year was his career year with 513 yards. So yeah, I don't trust the receptions or the yards that much. I trust his touchdowns. He got 8 last year in 15 games. 2 years ago, this is a shitty stat. It's a real stat, but I don't agree with the way they come up with said stat. Alan Lazard had the highest passer rating when targeted on unscripted plays or something like that.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. But what it does mean on a roundabout way, he is really good at like the impromptu stuff. And he does have a connection with Aaron Rodgers that we have seen Jordy Nelson, James Jones, Devontae Adams do. And that ability, which you can't measure, even though they try to with the stat, that ability does lead to touchdowns in the red zone because Aaron Rodgers keeps the plays alive and then he finds them.
Mm-hmm. Also, another sneaky guy who had good connection with Rodgers on scramble plays was Geronimo Allison.
He did. Is he anywhere? Packers should sign him.
Is he still in Detroit?
I think he got cut last year. Falcons.
Okay.
Okay. Well, good luck to you.
But you are right. I mean, of course, not a majority, but a lot of the Packers' offense has kind of been scramble plays after the first 1, 2, 3 options aren't open. Rodgers isn't going to throw it if nobody's open, and to extend. So to me, all the Alan Lazard bets are more of his opportunity. I'm not saying he's a bad receiver by any means, but more of his opportunity more than his skill.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree. Amon-Ra St. Brown over under 5 touchdowns. I like the over.
So I don't know what to make out of Amon-Ra.
I think he's good, but he's not as good as a lot of people say he is, if that makes sense.
Because he really, if you really want to break it down, he had 6 good games last year at the end of the year.
He ended the season really strong.
Yeah. So is that something to build off of? Probably. Is Jared Goff competent enough to work that? I think that's yet to be seen. I think we'll know exactly what Amon-Ra St. Brown is after week 2 this year.
Final 6 games of the season last year, 51 catches, 560 yards, 5 touchdowns, 61 more rushing yards with another rushing touchdown.
Yeah. So I can definitely see that hitting the over, and I can see that honestly be not reaching that goal there.
I like the over 5 receiving touchdowns more than I like the over 825 receiving yards or 80.5 receptions.
Yes. Plus the Lions have added, decent receivers as you mentioned before.
And that's why. Yeah. DJ Chark, I think, is underrated. And then Jameson Williams, I think he's going to come back relatively early. And I think he's a stud.
Also, TJ Hawkinson is one of the best tight ends in the NFL.
Yes. Yep. And Swift, if he's healthy, he's going to see a lot of work.
Yeah. And Jamal Williams will see passing down stuff too.
Yep. Darnell Mooney, I don't feel comfortable betting any of his props, but over 5.5 receiving touchdowns intrigues me, but I don't want to do it.
Agreed. Does it happen? Probably, but I don't think it's worth the risk of betting on the Bears.
Not here anymore, but Devontae Adams over under 10 receiving touchdowns. I like the under.
I like the over.
Overs -130, unders +100. I don't know. We'll see. We will see.
Yeah. I think same as Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think we know what we're going to get out of Devontae Adams maybe week 1 for the season.
Maybe. I don't know. I know McDaniels likes to run it when he gets in the red zone, and I don't think Devontae Adams is a big play guy.
Not with Derek Carr.
Right. And if you're just talking about route running, like Hunter Renfrow can do the same thing. And I don't know.
Darren Waller's always got mismatches on him.
Yeah, right. I think he'll be good. I think he'll get close to that number. Justin Jefferson.
Over.
I agree. This seems. What did he have last year? Okay, so over under 1,325 receiving yards.
Over.
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson leads the league in receiving yards this year, in my mind.
1,400 is rookie year. 1,616 last year.
Yeah, I don't know why it would be at 1,300.
Him and Jamar Chase keep talking about they're racing for 2,000 receiving yards. That's what they're competing for this year.
To be honest, I think both of them could do it this year, in my mind. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility.
I'm a Jamar Chase hater, but I'm certainly not a Justin Jefferson hater. He's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think that's an easy bet. That's one of my favorite bets we've talked about.
Yep.
Over under 100.5 receptions for him. He had 108 last year.
I will say I like the yards more.
Same.
I'm trying to think. Irv Smith is back this year, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Adam Thielen
healthy.
Is healthy. And Dalvin Cook's healthy.
For now.
Right. I'm curious what you have. Do you have Adam Thielen touchdowns at all?
Yeah.
Sorry if I'm jumping the gun.
No, I skipped over it on accident because I saw it when I was going to Alan Lazard, but I liked it. It was 7. I like the over on 7.
Over. He's all he does is catch touchdowns, Adam Thielen.
And again, it's that push number. Like, I love even numbers for this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, he played only 13 games, had 10 touchdowns.
Like, the dude puts up multiple, 3 touchdown games a year.
Yep. One's always against the Packers, too, which is really kind.
Somehow, if there's any receiver who has shown that they can beat Jair Alexander, it's like Adam Thielen, which is wild.
Right. Well, it's also a fucking nightmare because now there's Justin Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, last 4 years, we talked about Kirk Cousins passing touchdowns. A big reason is Adam Thielen. He's had 9, 6, 14, and 10. And the 6 came on a 10-game season.
I know that you guys don't love this fantasy football format of touchdowns only, but if you're in a league, I absolutely love Adam Thielen as if you can get him 5th round or later.
Yeah, for sure. He's underrated even just for regular fantasy this year.
Agreed.
Most receiving touchdowns this year. Justin Jefferson is 5th in the yards at plus 900. Adam Thielen. Still scrolling. Not in the odds at all. Is that true? That is true. A little disrespectful for the white guy, but that's fine.
I don't necessarily know that Adam Thielen leads the NFL in touchdowns, or in receiving touchdowns, but does he lead the NFC North in receiving touchdowns? I think that he is front runner for that, or if not 1 to 3, somewhere in there.
I'm willing to bet he has more receiving touchdowns than Gabriel Davis, who has one of the highest odds.
Wild.
Where did that love come from? He is one of the most hyped receivers this year. I think he's fine.
People love the AFC Championship. That was a fun game last year. Or the divisional round.
Turn on NFL Network and find a new game. They play them every day. Just watch another game. Don't let that be the last one you watched. Who else is on here? Devontae Smith has odds. Robert Woods has odds. Michael Gallup, who is going to start the season on the PUP list, has odds. Disrespectful. Do they have receiving yards? I don't think so. They got odds for most receiving touchdowns, most receptions, but it doesn't look like they have most receiving yards yet. To your point, once they have that up, I like Justin Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other player performance props here?
Do we have any kicker props or anything?
There might be. I saw there was tight end. They also have NFL name the finalists, like final teams. Oh yeah, exact Super Bowl matchup. Okay, that's not as fun as I thought.
And I don't think any NFC North team falls into that. Although I did tell you I talked myself into the Packers winning the Super Bowl, but
Yeah. No kickers. They do have tight end and they have defensive odds. Over under 7 sacks for Aiden Hutchinson. I like the over.
Over. Like you said, you get 5 against the Bears alone. You can make up 2 somewhere else.
Uh-huh. Ooh. Over under 2 interceptions for Jair Alexander.
Oh. What do you think? Because that feels it feels like 2 this year for him.
Which again with the push, you bet it.
Right.
He's only had 2 interceptions once in his career.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, teams just don't throw to him.
Yeah.
I think he's given the freedom to roam a little bit more, which is going to lead to worse stats for him, but more interceptions. So to your point, if all we have to do is get to 2, and I'm not going to lose money, I would bet it.
Yeah, I think I would agree. Also, that's gotta suck as a corner, like a Jair Alexander or a Jalen Ramsey or like a Darrell Revis back in the day. Those guys got to be just itching to get into plays, and nothing ever comes their way.
Right. Well, that's why they shit talk, because that's the only thing that keeps them in the game.
Right. Those mic'd up moments of when Richard Sherman had his incredible year of him shit talking, nobody throwing him inside those are great NFL clips.
Yeah, they're very good. Only other thing there is here is Rashawn Gary's in the odds for most sacks in the regular season, but it warms my heart to say he is very low on the list. So at least the odds makers get it.
They do. A lot of people think that Rashawn Gary
over under 9
of Rashawn Gary.
Yeah,
I would say more. What do you have last year? 9.5.
He had 9.5.
Yeah, the only thing is Rashawn Gary is not, prime Khalil Mack. He's not Joey Bosa. He's not guys like that. But our knock on him was that he wasn't finishing plays, wasn't finishing sacks. If he finishes one more than he did last year, that overhits.
Do you still hear me?
Yep, I got you.
Okay, I froze for a second. I agree with you though. Rasul Douglas, same as Jair Alexander, over under 2 interceptions.
I do think that Rasul Douglas gets more interceptions than Jair Alexander this year.
Mm-hmm. I agree. That's at 115. So again, Rasul Douglas, he is very clearly not looked at as the guy to not pass towards, even though he had multiple pick sixes last year. He's a good corner. He's not an elite corner. So he's going to see targets and he's going to take advantage and he's going to be hyper aggressive in jump routes.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Trayvon Diggs last year. Was Trayvon Diggs one of the best corners in the NFL?
God, no.
No. But he made a lot of plays. Marcus Peters is another guy like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's it for defense. There are some tight end stuff. Cole Kmet over under 3 touchdowns.
Sell me on Cole Kmet because you've talked about him a lot in fantasy football shows, and I don't know what to think of him.
I think he's really, really good. I think he's one of the better all-around tight ends in the NFL. Super athletic, great blocker, which means he's going to be on the field. Means he can run a lot of check and releases. But, we'll see what this offense does. They're going to use the tight end in this offense more than the last offense did, which is good. If it's over under 3 touchdowns, I would bet the over. Again, if all he has to do is hit 3, then cool. I don't expect him to be a breakout star, but last year he had 0 touchdowns. Year before that he had 2. But he had 60 receptions for 612 yards last year. If you told me he finished with 700 yards and 3 touchdowns this year, that makes sense. I think he's super talented.
Sure. Totally agree.
And his yards over under is actually set at 600, which is high for a tight end. He will be used a lot this year. Other tight ends in the North.
Hey, is Jimmy Graham still on the team, or is he a free agent?
He is a free agent, technically, if he has not retired.
He likes to play wide receiver. The Packers should sign him.
Sure. I think the Bears threw him. I would set the over under at like 25 fades in the end zone last year, and that's all he did. And he
That's
caught a
all I
few of
want.
them.
That's all I wanted the Packers to do with him, and they just wouldn't.
100%. Here we go. TJ Hawkinson. We've already said he's one of the best tight ends in the NFL. Over under 5 receiving touchdowns.
Over.
Over under 700 yards.
Over.
Over under 67 and a half receptions.
Over.
The receptions is the only one I'm a little nervous about.
If you're an Iowa football fan, I think that would be a fun parlay.
It would be. Last year, he had 61 receptions in 12 games. So, well on his way to hitting the over on the 67.
Yep.
I got nothing else. Do you?
I got nothing else either. I mentioned that if we had any future bets that we wanted to talk about, I guess the only future NFC North bet that I had was the Packers winning the Super Bowl. And that's more of a fun bet as it is. That's what I actually think is going to happen. Because I also have money on the Bills and the Rams winning the Super Bowl too.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of futures already placed. I have the Buccaneers winning. I have the Buccaneers over the Ravens. I have Lamar Jackson MVP, Tom Brady MVP. I have the over on the Lions wins when it was at an even 6. I have any other NFC North ones? I do have the Lions splitting the Packers. I have the Lions 2-0 over the Bears.
I will say this is an NFC North one, but it is a fun one, or kind of an interesting one that I bet. I have Travis Kelce plus 1,000 to lead the league in receiving yards this year.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't mind that at all.
And then I think I have Joe Burrow plus 650 to lead the league in passing yards as well.
Again, yeah, that's very fair.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be an interesting year. If you're still watching, if you watch this after the fact, obviously check out the link in the description to sign up for Bet Online and claim all those bonuses today. Let us know what other sports betting specific shows or topics you want us to do. One thing I was toying around with, and it's actually something a company approached me about a few years ago. I wasn't able to do it, and I don't think they did it at all. But I kind of want to do like a live betting show.
That'd be fun.
Like during a football game, during a Thursday night football game, live bet the game, live bet some props while it's going on and stuff. I think that could be interesting.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That's a little different than I know a lot of people do the reaction videos, like you watch along with me, but it's not gambling oriented, I should say.
Right. Yeah, let us know if you're interested in that. But other sports betting topics, because every day in August, we are going to be publishing a video here or doing a stream. So there's going to be a lot of fantasy topics, but a lot of sports betting topics as well. If you have specific ones you want to see, then you will get it. Just comment below, let us know, and we will do it. Anything else you want to tell the people, Luke?
Tweet at us at Fantasy Flurry, at Luke Rhyme. Tell us your future bets, and we'll talk along with you. See if we end up placing those, or we can talk you into placing any of them.
100%. Let us know. Yeah, as much interaction as we can get, we will love to see.
Also,
and we'll have people on the show to talk about betting too.
Tweet at Trevor Land too. He wanted to be on the show today, but something didn't work out. So he would also love the interaction on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. He wanted to bet the Lions to not make the playoffs, and I said we can't have that negativity. So, whoops. But yeah, Luke Reimer on the right. I am Zach Bruner. We will for sure be back next Wednesday for a fantasy football and Packer stream. So subscribe to be notified, and we will see you then.